Welcome to the College Football Bros. I'm Michael Newman.
I'm Ryan Newman.
And I'm Trey Newman.
Okay, it is day 2 of quarterback rankings week. Trey is going to give his projected starters in the Big 12, and he's going to rank all of them. Let us know in the comments below why Trey is an absolute idiot, and his list is probably the worst thing you've ever seen. Ryan and I will do the same at the end of the podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. I've mentioned this before, but we are very close to 1,000 subscribers. Who knows? By the time this comes out, maybe we're at 1,000. If we're not, help us get there. But let's get into Trey's list, Ryan.
All righty. Dead last is Spencer Rattler from Oklahoma. Trey, why did you have him 10th?
Wow.
Dude,
bold
what's
move.
your problem?
That's bold.
The real number 10 is Jason Bean from Kansas.
Yeah, unfortunately, Kansas football is going to be on the bottom of a lot of lists, but Lance Leopold comes in, and he's got some options to sort through because Jason Bean is not guaranteed to be the starter. Jalen Daniels was a freshman last year. He was thrown to the fire. Miles Kendrick, he's athletic, back for his senior year. But the new guy, Bean, he's a transfer from North Texas. He's young, a dual threat, averaged over 6 yards per carry last season. I feel like Leopold might want to start with some new blood in his regime.
Set the bar low, like try to. I mean, it can't go much lower, I guess. Kansas already said it, but
All right, moving on. Number 9 on your list is Gerry Bohanon of Baylor.
Yeah, and Bohanon, Charlie Brewer, we know he transferred out of Utah, and so Gerry, he had some moments in the Big 12 title a couple years ago, and reports look
don't bring that up, please.
Yeah, Ryan, you were so close to the Big 12 champ there. But reports were in camp that he looked better than Jacob Zeno and even Blake Shapen as spring ball progressed. He's very mobile. He's a former 4-star, and I think that Baylor has a new offensive coordinator, Jeff Grimes. He comes in from Utah, and I think just from reading the tea leaves, it sounds like he might lean towards him.
From BYU, right?
Oh, BYU, excuse me. Yeah. Charlie Brewer transferred to Utah, and Grimes comes in from BYU. A lot of
crosstown rival.
Yeah.
All right, here. Let's move on to number 8. We have another transfer, Tyler Shough. He's transferred from Oregon to Texas Tech. So what are you seeing here on him, Trey?
I'm just not overly high on him. I mean, Matt Wells desperately needs Shough to help him out. He has potential, but in his first year at Oregon, he would occasionally get benched. He had some happy feet that led to turnovers. Even though, that being said, even though it wasn't always pretty, he did lead the Ducks to a Pac-12 title. I know they kind of backdoored their way in, but he did. The problem is he's not. The problem is he won't have as much talent around him in Lubbock as he did in Eugene. So even if he does take a step forward, I mean, maybe they could win a couple games, but I'm just not expecting so much for him to, get a little bit higher on this list.
Yeah, that's the question with him. Were the stats a result of great talent around him or not? I guess we'll find out. Number 7 on the list is Skylar Thompson from Kansas State. Why'd you have him here?
Yeah, well, he's the most experienced quarterback in the Big 12, so we kind of know what you're going to get, and it's not always that bad. I mean, he has led a couple upset wins over Oklahoma. The challenge for him is he's coming off of a shoulder surgery this offseason, and Kansas State, as we saw at the very end of last year when he went down, they struggled pretty big time offensively when freshman Will Howard was thrown in there. But he was young, didn't have much experience around him. So it's still a battle between him and Howard. But I think Thompson has the credibility, and he's proven clutch in the big games, like I mentioned the Oklahoma games before. And he can fill the stat sheet both through the air and on the ground.
Yep. Yes, there's been some good moments for him.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to number 6 here. We have Jarret Doege from West Virginia.
Yeah, so keep in mind here, for me, kind of 3 through 6 was very difficult. I thought you could almost kind of flip a coin on some of these. So because I like Jarret Doege, he just happened to kind of fall at 6. I was a fan of him at Bowling Green, and I could easily see him finishing as a top 3 quarterback in the conference. But he really has been pretty efficient over the last 4 years. Looking at last year, he only threw 1 pick in his final 6 games. So if he continues to play up to that level or even improves, the Mountaineers have a chance to kind of be a dark horse Big 12 contender this year.
Okay, moving on to number 5 from Oklahoma State. It is Spencer Sanders. He's had his ups and downs.
He has had his ups and downs, but just like kind of his image or whatever his I guess like his, what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say
reputation.
Like, his reputation has taken a ding, but like just based on like kind of pure, talent and upside, he'd be top 2. He just hasn't quite lived up to that yet. Because he's physically gifted. He looks the part, but just hasn't quite lived up to that. So he's been a turnover machine. It's been well documented. He has 20 picks in 20 games. Add on a few fumbles as well. His great plays, and there's a majority of them, but those crippling interceptions or fumbles or turnovers that he has have cost Oklahoma State some games. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, and that's why I'm putting him slightly higher over Doege. He's got another chance to prove the doubters wrong, but it's kind of like this is it. He is the clear starter. He'll be productive in Gundy's system, but he's just got to limit the turnovers. If he does that, he could clearly move up on this list.
Yep. Yeah, he's a tough one. He's for sure. All right, move on to number 4 from TCU, Max Duggan. What do you think? Putting him there, Trey?
Yeah. I mean, we're getting even harder to rank the next couple guys. If someone had Duggan maybe 6th or 7th, I wouldn't maybe bat an eye, but I think overall nationally, Duggan is a little bit underrated. He can hurt defenses with both his arms and his legs. He's going into his 3rd year in the program. He's shown improvement in each of the first 2 years. I just think he's kind of poised for a big season. His passing prowess is still a little bit unknown just because they haven't thrown it as much as other schools in the conference. But when he did, he completed over 60% of his passes. His yards per attempt actually matched Brock Purdy, who's, we know, one of the best in the conference. He only threw 4 picks. I think Duggan could easily become more of a household name, and I'm kind of banking on it by having him here by the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, going into last year, I would not have expected Max Duggan to be ahead of Spencer Sanders, but after 2021, I think it's fair. Moving on to number 3, you had Casey Thompson from Texas. Not a lot to go off of there, but pretty high.
Yeah, this is probably one of the more controversial ones, just because, like you said, he hasn't done anything yet. But this is just a play for me on Steve Sarkisian and the surrounding talent he has at his disposal. He's not even guaranteed to be the starter. He's battling with Hudson Card. I'm leaning to. I read a couple things, and I'm also leaning to Thompson based on what I kind of saw with that big second half that he had in the Alamo Bowl when Ehlinger left the game. But Card, totally viable, number 2 dual threat a couple years ago, so he's obviously no slouch. But either way, the Texas offense should be productive given some of the returning production with guys like Bijan Robinson, Joshua Moore. But I just think Sarkisian has proven to get a lot out of his offenses. I'm not expecting Thompson to just come in and match Ehlinger, but there's no reason to think he can't be pretty dang productive.
Yeah, I see the argument there. All right, moving on to number 2, we have Brock Purdy from Iowa State. Don't say pretty good. Don't say pretty good.
Pretty good. Now, I mean, there's a lot to like about Purdy, of course. He's been super productive, kind of a program changer for Iowa State. He was a play away, really, he kind of did make a boneheaded interception in the Big 12 title last year, but I'll forgive him. He led them to a dominant Fiesta Bowl victory. He was first in a lot of categories last year, in the Big 12, including completions. He completed 2/3 of his passes, 8.5 yards per attempt since he's been a Cyclone. He's incredible. There's a lot of accolades. And then, not to mention, this year, he's got one of the best running backs in the country, Breece Hall, to take some of the pressure off him. That's going to open up more throwing lanes. And, of course, he's got one of the best tight ends in the country, Charlie Kohler, back. He's had some brief moments of inconsistency, but overall his track record speaks for itself, and it's very impressive.
Okay, moving on to probably the unanimous number one here. You have Spencer Rattler of Oklahoma.
Yeah, I mean, kind of the Heisman favorite. Hard not to have him number one. Last year he started off a little slow, but he matured quickly. Yeah. The Sooners rattled off eight wins in a row to end the season, including the Big 12 title and the Cotton Bowl. He led the Big 12 in numerous statistical categories, and you would think he would only continue to thrive in Lincoln Riley's system. And I think it's the first time Riley's going to have the same starting quarterback 2 years in a row, which is kind of scary to think about.
As the head coach?
As the head coach, yeah. So,
yeah.
And he was 10th in the country in yards per attempt, threat on the ground, like easy number one choice.
Yep, no doubt about it.
All right, so let's get into our, obviously, sound off in the comments below, but Ryan and I will give our thoughts here. I mean, overall, I don't have massive disagreements at all. I think I might be like a little bit higher on Tyler Shough than you are. I know he had to transfer away and was, maybe getting overtaken by Anthony Brown at Oregon, but he put up some good numbers.
So who would you put him ahead of? Skylar Thompson?
I would put him, actually, honestly, how about this? I would move Doege down 2 spots.
Whoa,
maybe
okay.
I'd swap Shough and Thompson, though I'm not as confident about that. I guess I'm not as high on Doege as you are. Like, I don't know. It just seems like that offense he's not able to push the ball downfield, at least, yet.
Yeah,
maybe
they're not super explosive. I agree.
Yeah, so I guess I would prefer, like, especially Skylar Thompson. He's proven, I think, as a solid player. And like you said, the offense cratered without him last year. I think that shows something.
I'm okay with Tyler Shough where he is. I could see the argument, but I would probably drop. I'd probably just move Skylar Thompson up a couple spots. Really, I'd probably slide him ahead of Spencer Sanders, and then otherwise I'm pretty good. But I like Skylar Thompson. I think, like you said, Mike, when he's healthy, he's pretty good. And he didn't necessarily have a ton of weapons around him. So, but again, not a huge grapes here. But I just think he's been proven himself to be pretty darn good. Casey Thompson is kind of a, just putting him straight up third is bold. Yeah. But, there's no like surefire guys behind him, so I can kind of buy it.
Yeah, I mean, after Rattler and Purdy at 2, there's a lot of guys you could make an argument for at 3, and I think Casey Thompson's one of them.
Yep.
It's not like Duggan, is some proven great efficient passer. He's solid, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. There you have it. Trey, what do you think of the conference quarterbacks overall? We've only gone through the ACC so far, but what are your thoughts on the Big 12?
I think it is pretty solid. I think it's pretty dang deep. I mean, the ACC I thought ACC kind of had like the top heavy, or at least the top half of it was a very good conference, but I think the Big 12 is a pretty deep list.
Yeah, I think it's solid. Okay. Well, thank you for watching our Big 12 episode. Be sure to subscribe because we'll be back tomorrow. Ryan will get his first chance in the hot seat. You're going to rank the Big 10 quarterbacks, so we will see you then.
You've been watching the College Football Bros. Be sure to subscribe here on YouTube and in your podcast app for college football content all year round. For bonus episodes and access to our Discord chat, join our Patreon at patreon.com/collegefootballbros. Thanks for watching.